Hello.
Yeah.
So, what would you like to talk about today?
Um, it sounds funny, but tigers.
Okay. Is that why you went like that? You went like this with your
It just
shoulders?
sounds a bit funny,
Okay.
doesn't it?
All
It's a
right.
bit random.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess it'll make sense when you've told us about tigers.
um, because everything I see, I tend to relate it to my situation and stuff like that. Um,
As more majority of people do.
yeah.
Mm.
So a random thing on Facebook popped up about tigers in captivity, about being mistreated and um, that they'd been rescued and sent to a sanctuary for years of being mistreated or kept as pets or in the circus or just not well anyway. And they'd been sent to this sanctuary, and it was just saying that after like 4 years of this tiger being in this sanctuary, it had died. And they were saying, even though it had spent the last 4 years in, really nice surroundings and being cared for with medical treatment and good food and space and all that kind of stuff, they're told that the trauma of living in those experiences had an impact on its health and its well-being. Um, and it just made me think that those people looking after those tigers knew the impact of trauma. They were trauma informed. And
I
it's like,
guess as well, you've got to have a look at that a little bit deeper as well. Is that some of them remember a sanctuary and they'd rescued these little baby monkeys, and one of them had had a baby and they'd lost the parents. The parents
mm,
had been killed, so they had these babies. And the lady on the camera kept talking about how dangerous it was for them to be on the floor in the mud because they're going to get germs and they're going to get this. And she incessantly spoke like that, very negative towards you've got to be careful and there's all these germs and they were injecting them and things like that. And it's like just before the film or the documentary on that, you kind of got a sense, or I got a sense that that animal's going to die by the end of this program,
mm,
because in the wild it would be rolling in the mud with its mother. It would be doing all
mm,
those things. Animals don't. Oh, you can't do this, and it's like almost like a projection onto it.
mm,
It's going to do this and it's going to do that, and it needs to do this and it needs to do that.
mm,
So I get what you're saying is that, even they recognize that because of the trauma it had suffered with human beings, it might be as a human being, you think, wow, they can, as you were going to say, wow, they can recognize that in a tiger, but
yeah.
human beings can't even recognize it in
Yeah.
our own
And I
species.
have to go to the doctors and say, when I have like even a mental health issue or a physical issue,
Yeah.
I'm the one pointing out to them, well, do you think it's because of I've lived in the trauma response for 40 years? Do you think it's because of, like with my bladder and things, because I was raped as a child? Do you think it's because I've exercised for 6 hours a day for so many years and starved myself to 4 stone?
And also the question is do you think it's because I've been taking medication that medicates the
Mm,
body as they've given to the wild animal, because wild animals aren't used to that.
mm,
They're used to healing themselves in another way. And so imagine somebody's captured you and they want to do the best, but that's the only best that they
mm,
know. Do you see what I mean?
mm,
After they've traumatized you and then somebody else wants to do
mm,
this. But they're equally going to traumatize your body by injecting it with chemicals.
mm,
And so I know that, what we're doing is to try and help people, but we're trying to help people based on something that we've been told,
mm,
which isn't about being human. Do you
mm,
see what I mean?
mm,
So it's like you could question that, with the trauma. I guess what you're
mm,
saying. Are you surprised because of the trauma? But also, when somebody's trying to help you, your body's still going to react to that. If it's
mm,
been, it hurts
mm.
when somebody puts a needle in you, or these
Yeah,
things
I
hurt.
didn't think of it from that side. I was just thinking that they recognise the impact of trauma on an animal,
and say it's because of
but
that.
they don't on a human.
Exactly.
But then again, looking at
your
using it as
your body's being traumatized.
Yeah.
When people take medication, the brain might say, or somebody might say, this is going to do you some good. Do you see what I mean? But your body doesn't feel that way. Your body always tells you it's doing me some good because now I'm suffering a side effect.
Yeah.
And when I suffer that side effect, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to shut it up. We're going to switch the alarm off with another medication. And then what are you going to do when that bothers me? We're going to switch that. So they are traumas to the body, you know, as the book says. I can't remember the name of the author, but the body remembers every strike.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's not going to lie, is it? It's going to, you know, if it's telling you there's a problem and you're just going to mask it and say, let's cover that up, then do you see what I mean? So there's a bigger picture playing out, but we don't always look at it.
And I'm thinking now, you've got me thinking that when we offer to help something or someone, whether it be a human or an animal or something, we think we're doing, with all good intentions, we think we're doing the best.
But we're only doing what we've been told.
Yeah, or I'm thinking with the NHS, they're only doing what they're commissioned to. It's like, we know what you want, but we haven't got that, so we'll try this instead. And it's like, it's not right, but it's all there is. And also that we've got good intention.
It's not right, but it's all. I mean, it's like that when we're willful ignorance or willful blindness, where society is normalizing illness now. It's kind of going along with it, so we barely question it even more now because, you know, if we're getting sicker and sicker, and people are, you can see it. You know, then it's everything's. We'll bring out a pill for that. I'll bring out a pill for that. So you can see that we're the kind of, you know, factory that we were part of the Industrial Revolution, part of that. So because of that, you know, you can see how.
And I guess we are like the tigers in the cage, because the tiger can't object to what the keeper's doing to it. And like what I was very compliant with my treatment or any help that I received. I was like, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Even if it didn't fit right, it isn't what I thought was right.
Well, that's because you believed, you know, that you believed the label, number one, and you believed the costume that the label might come under. Because it's like when you're on the stage, you wear your costume, don't you? As Shakespeare said, we're all on the stage acting. And how many people in the world wear these costumes? Well, a doctor will wear a costume, will put the white coat on to indicate that. A policeman will wear a costume. Everybody's got the costumes on, and then they have the labels. And then we're told about the labels, but you don't look at the person often behind that label. And when you do, you know, we dismiss part of what they're giving to us because it's a label. So we've been taught to trust that. So, but behind all of it's a human being that's been told to do something that potentially they're not questioning. What are they doing? You know, like the experiment of why everybody did what Hitler told him to do, why people went and then they did these experiments about giving a group of people electric shocks, and they were in another room, and so those that were said give them the electric shock and turn it up, they did as they were told, and they could hear the people screaming. Despite hearing the people screaming, they still did as they was told. So we're still gonna.
And at a time, I could see myself doing that because I complied to everything.
Yes.
Even when I was
knowing what damage we're going to do.
Yeah, but even when I'm damaging myself, I still complied and sacrificed my own well-being because it was what somebody else told me was the right thing to do.
Yes.
And they had the label that they were better than me.
Yes.
So, yeah, I can totally see myself, if anybody had said, you know, jump on one leg or run down the street or whatever, and it'll help you, I would have done it because I believe that's what people were better than me. I believe that they knew what they were talking about.
What if they don't? You see, we do as we're told. You know, somebody will say, and you listen to the news, and then it's like Pavlov's dogs, really. So, you know, how Pavlov experimented with the dogs with lights and stimuli, and then realized the dog salivated when you know, when they saw the food. So it's like people are actions and reactions. So people can just have you doing something. If someone comes on and goes, "Oh my God, I hate that person," And then you can get riled up for them, and you've not met the person, but they've just told you, and instantly there's a stimuli, and you start barking like a dog. You'll get angry, and imagine how many police officers they'll get a request in, and it will say, "Oh, this person's dangerous" or whatever. What do you think they're going to start? They're going to start with a stimuli, and then they're going to go there, or they might be triggered to a past event within their own life, and that might trigger them to act in a certain way. So, or you watch the news and I'm angry with that, I'm angry with that, and everything else, because the news is going to give you a certain stimuli, and you don't even check to see whatever this country's doing or whatever they're saying is true, because you've never met the person personally, or majority of people haven't. You've not gone over there and investigated for yourself, but straight away we act and react because somebody comes in and tells us something, and we do not, half the time, go and investigate the truth for ourselves to say, let me see if that's true or not. We never do, and then everybody starts arguing and everything, and the people that have set you off can just continue to set everybody off so they can sit back and do whatever they want to do. Do you see what I mean? Because we just act and react to certain stimuli.
Yeah, I can.
And you can run the world. Yeah,
I
you
can
run the world
visualize
with
when
that.
I've done that.
Yeah, it's called the world order. And as the world order goes, these people decide this is what you're all going to do. And don't we all do it? We act and react to a certain stimuli. And do we have a question? Is that true? Why am I reacting to something? I'm getting myself worked up and telling myself a belief and a story, and then I'm angry. And then when I see a person that looks like that person that's done that on TV or whatever, I'm going to start arguing. We'll get a group and we'll all argue together about the same thing. And it's like, as the saying goes, the law of karma. The law of karma is, if you're angry, you have to feel it first before you put it onto someone else. So you feel the karma first. If you're angry, you have just angered yourself first. If you're happy first. If you're sad with somebody else, you're sad first. Do you see what I mean? So whatever you do to others has already been done to you. And you have to, that's part of hating your body, because you're putting all these nasty feelings in from this stimuli without saying, I don't need to react to that because I don't even know if that's true or not. But we do. Yeah. We have a certain image about people, and we will treat them based on the story we've been given about them. And then that's what we end up gaslighting people rather than finding things out from, like when years ago, depression, people, it took quite a long time for people to take on about depression, and that it was a true thing. And it's like, oh, well, I can't see your leg broken. So, because we don't bother to look inside of your body. We need to see evidence on the outside. Well, you look fine to me. So because you look fine to me, I don't know what's going on inside. And that person could have had to put a smile on their face all their lives, growing up and pretending that everything were okay, because they weren't allowed to express themselves. So when they're an adult and they go and they've got depression and they dress up and they do all these things, well, you look fine to me. And so they get dismissed as they did when they were a child. So,
and it's easy to get dismissed when you've got when professionals like the doctors and things like that only have a 10-minute window with you and everything. You can fake it for that long. I know I've done. And it was only when one consultant spent a lot of time with me, he said, "You're a bloody good actress. People will think there's no wrong with you." And I did. I got through a lot of situations by acting and faking, like you've said.
Because you learn to please the other, don't you? You learn to say
and fit it. You're trying to fit in.
Yeah. And then when you've got 10 minutes, you realise people haven't got time for my stuff, so I'm not really going to tell them my stuff. And if you do tell them your stuff, you just offered a tablet when you might not want that, or you're dismissed, or whatever, or they just simply don't have time.
Yeah, because it's just made me think when you say they've got that 10-minute window and it's all like a bit of a rush thing, sort of in and out. I know in some situations when you say it's like when I've been offered support, which has been like a fixed amount of time or something, in my head, it's like, I'm not opening all this up just to be left with it because I won't be able to cover it in like 2 sessions or something like
and
that.
And then you're left with that going home.
And, so I'll be like, right, I can't be just left on my own with it. So I'm not even going to broach that. And so have some support where I'm like, I'm just not bringing that bit up. I'm not bringing that bit up because there won't be time to deal with it or that kind of thing. But another thing, it's going off on a tangent, but I can remember that I saw in a doctor's surgery not that long ago, and it were like, if you've got 10 minutes or you're on your lunch break, we can fit a smear in. It's not a big deal and all like this. And I thought...
Well, it is to the person receiving the smear.
And I thought, that, I have no intention of going for a smear, but to me, that would put me off. Going, you're not giving me the time about coping with my anxiety, coping with, that part of my body being exposed and all those kind of things. I don't want to be rushed in and out in 10 minutes and feel as if
it's dehumanizing, really, isn't it? That we dehumanize, being dehumanized more and more. I noticed a couple of emails from companies that didn't even use my name. They just put good morning, but didn't put the name. And it's like, wow. And I asked them, is this about, are we being dehumanized even more now? Is that why you've not written my name? And there was no response to that. They just not answered that question at all. And it's like, we've taken more and more away from ourselves as human beings, and we just becoming and females, getting their identity taken even more. But it's the, just being this dismissal, almost like it is in our evolution. It feels like we're going backwards, not forwards. We not even being taught about humans at all. We just taught about labels. You're a label, but you're a human under that label. There's somebody under the mask. There's somebody under the mask of labels, should I say. There's somebody behind the uniform. There's somebody, when you go, you have the uniform meets you. Somebody might meet you in the uniform, but who are you going to get? You're not quite sure of, are you? Because you've had some awful experiences, and abusive experiences, but you've also had some really nice and caring experiences, and both have got a uniform on, and so it's that you're not.
But don't we tend to focus on the negative? Like with the NHS, I'm thinking, I'm not going now, I'm not going to doctors, it's pointless because they don't listen to me, they don't do this, they're not bothered, they don't care, and all that kind of stuff. Because of my experiences, like you've said, I've had a really good couple of experiences, but they get forgotten, or I've forgotten them and focus on well, there's no point in going because last time they didn't listen to me, or they tried to tell me something was different that I knew was right, or like with the telephone call I had recently with the pharmacist, trying to gaslight me into believing something else, and it's like, so I'm not going to bother. I don't want, but I'm casting everybody with the same cloth. Instead and I'm forgetting those positive experiences.
I think it's remembering the positive experiences, but also I think the experience overall goes against, we've been taught this is what health is. And when like I said, like when you go into the Hansel and Gretel house when you're young, it looks good, doesn't it? It's got these sweeties, well, this, it's got these labels of care, all these names of care and things like that. And so it already feels like you're being lied to when you go in and you don't get that level of care. Or you go in and you ask for another level of care, and it's like, well, this is the only thing we've got. We'll medicate you, but, can you tell me why I've got the problem? Can you investigate why I've got the problem and when there's no answer for that and it's just medicate it, then, well, you're not caring about me in the way that I want to be cared for them, because I want to find out why so I can avoid it. Or do you see what I mean? But when you look and you say, well, food and the drug industry is the FDA, one company. So, if you look at food and it's processed and it's being passed through for you to eat it, then how can you trust what you're doing at the other end if it's like, I eat chemicals here and then I eat chemicals. I'm being made sick with chemicals from eating them, and then I'm being told that I'm going to be made, to medicate with chemicals. So if they're both the same thing, then that comes into play as well, I guess, from what you're saying. It's like the people might be treating me nice, but they're still giving me chemicals. Because, asking, why are you doing that? Why not have a look at how did I get this in the first place, rather than your body's defective? What if it's not? Why aren't those questions being asked? If it was, and we needed all this medication, then how did humans survive to get to this point in the first place without medication? How did we survive before that? Because we did.
Yeah.
So you've got to ask, is what we're doing working, or is it just sicknesses? Is big business?
It's putting that pot on a broken arm in it instead of finding out why the arm keeps breaking in the first place.
Well, even when you put the evidence of a broken arm shows you that the arm heals itself. It's just that you need to hold it steady. Like I said, that when I snapped a plant and I held it, I put it together and it healed itself. And it's looking at that more and saying, there's no side effect. Do you see what I mean? When your body heals itself, you don't get a side effect from that. You don't get stomach ache, a bloated stomach pains, all of these things that you're starting off because the body's saying, well, you might have shut that up, but you've now awoken something else, you've created something else. We have to create, if we're manifestors and creators, don't we create illness to be able to treat it? Because when those tigers were captured in the wild, I'm sure they were perfectly healthy before that. Didn't we want it created by us?
Yeah.
They're not creating that.
Yeah. Or the abuse that they went through.
By humans.
Just like
a child
going through abuse.
Yeah. Just like we all go through abuse.
And just because when it stops doesn't mean to say everything's all right.
No.
That damage has been done.
And
that damage to that tiger had been done when it were in a nice free sanctuary. It had lots of place to roam.
It wasn't free.
It were getting its food.
It wasn't free. It was in a sanctuary. It wasn't free like we're not free. Do you see what I mean? So it might have been getting its food, but it might prefer to get its home. Do you see what I mean? So it's like that when, like the tiger, if you're mirroring the tiger, what you're saying is you've had similar treatments to the tiger had. Did it make you well? Is medication making you well? It's like, oh, I'm cooked now, I'm fine. I don't need to take that anymore. It's like, no, and even don't you still feel ill with it?
And just because the abuse has stopped doesn't mean to say
the
body will go back to normal. You're carrying on living with it, aren't you, in that?
Well, it's because the abuse hasn't stopped. Because you picked up on what you self-harm, so the abuse hasn't stopped. Your body's still being attacked.
Yeah.
And when you take medication, your body's still being hurt. So, I guess you mirrored that really well. That was...
Yeah, not in a way that I was expecting. You made me think about it differently. I was just thinking, there no tigers hold trauma, so why don't there no people hold trauma? But yeah, looking at it that you're not free. There's always the minute. There's always something.
There is. Aren't we tied into certain things?
Yeah.
When you're ill or you've got an headache, you say I've got an headache or I don't feel well. Don't majority of people say, have you been to the doctors? Aren't we programmed to say that? Instead of saying, why have you got a headache? Is it something you've eaten? Your body naturally, everybody, when you've got stomachache, you're like, oh, I need to go to the toilet. And it's like, what have you eaten? Straight away, what have you eaten? Do you see what I mean? And what have you put in there that shouldn't be there? But psychologically, emotionally, we eat junk food. What have you put in there that shouldn't be there? Well, I watched all these nasty things constantly and fill my brain with it, and then I have to keep scrolling on my phone because my brain's so full of crap. I fill it with more crap, not realising, trying to get away from the crap. And it's like, when you've left your house and you go home and there's a load of squatters, and it's like, oh wow, I can't deal with them. I'm going to go sit on the doorstep. In effect, that's what we do with this house. This is our house, and we've inherited all the words that we've picked up on, from growing up, from society, from our family, all the experiences, and we built ourselves a character about ourselves from them, and we identify ourselves with it.
Yeah, if we looked at if we use that, if I looked at myself, I'm made up of all my experiences and the people who I've met in my world. If they were in my physical house, it'd be packed and jammed, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and you'd separate that from you. You'd be able to separate easy, because in your physical house, you'd say, well, look at them doing that and look at them doing that, but
when
it's
it's
got
in
nothing
your head,
to do with me.
or it's an unconscious.
But when it's in this house and you've been taught to be a human doing, not a human being, then that's what's causing people problems. And then with the problems, instead of looking at the problems, you just get more information shoved in by labels. You're this, you're this, you're this. You start eating them, and then you're literally buried in them. It's like going into your physical house and being buried in your physical house with everybody just piling on top of you.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why you can see things from a distance when you relate it to something else. But when it's yourself, you don't. And that's why, I'm guessing you could see it from the tigers, because it was a different species.
Yeah.
So you could see, I can see that's happening for the tiger, but we quite often don't look at ourselves because we've not been taught to. We've been taught, in a real sense anyway, we've been taught to feed the ego voice and attach ourselves to whatever we're being told about ourselves. Somebody else anybody can, inject something new, and you think, who's injecting these new things that are quite odd or strange? And people are going, oh yeah, I'll be that. And a new word will be injected, or a new name will be injected. Yeah, I'll have that one. Are you having that? Yeah, we'll have that one. It's like we just shop for words and we all pick them up and then we start acting roles out. And it's just, as Freud said, you have to see the insanity to see your way out of it, instead of just being who you are. And then people wonder why they're not comfortable in themselves. Wonder why they want to be this, or they want to be this, or they want to be this, because they're not comfortable. And it's because you're just full with so much stuff. You try to sort through this stuff to see what's me. So it's like going into your house that's got all these squatters in and looking through and going, I'll be you. Oh, I'll be you. Shall I be you? Shall I be you instead? Which one is me? It's like
you can't just move house. Like when I wanted to go to university, I wanted to move house and be a completely different person.
All
but I didn't. I packed up all my stuff from my old house and took it with me into my new house.
You took it, so that it's like all the people that were, in your house, intruding in your house, you took them all with you, because you were, well, I'll identify with you, or you, or you, and we've made a character of ourselves from all the information we've taken in, and it's like we're none of them.
Yeah, and that's why I couldn't go to uni and be a completely new person.
No, because you
I
had
brought
to
my
empty.
contents of my house.
You're supposed to empty, not start filling yourself with labels. You're supposed to empty yourself to find out, who am I? Because I've been buried since the time you were born. You were being buried with other people's stuff. You first, this is your name, this is your school, this is and then you go to school and you get all the, they say the factory learning machine, and you're going to get taught not how to be a human being, you're going to get taught to work. And then in your skills, when you're getting taught to work, so when you're learning, to add up, you've come on this planet to learn about who you are on this planet. So what you're going to do is mistakenly think that if I don't get 10 out of 10, or if I don't do very good in this factory learning machine to learn to work, I'll identify the score that I don't get and put that to myself. So if I don't get 10 out of 10 on this working thing, the only thing I can relate to myself is then I'm not good enough. And it's like, you're not good enough. No, because I can't do the job properly, therefore I'm not good enough. Like, learning that's got nothing to do with you. But unfortunately, as a human being, you've come on as a human being. So you think, oh, this is what human beings do you see what I mean? This is part of being a human being. It's like, got nothing to do with a human being. It's to do with teaching you how to be a human doing, to be a machine, which you're not. And that's why people are uncomfortable.
Makes sense.
How do you feel after that?
Okay. got a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From that tiger.
Yeah. Yeah. It represents a heck of a lot more than what I thought it did.
Yeah. When you look at the bigger picture of what's going on, which, you know, you just looked at the tiger and its reaction to certain things, but when you're looking deeper, you can see another picture playing out.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.